Okay, hi, my name is Joy Wilson, and I'm a teacher here at Blackman High School, and I'm going to be helping you run through the skills that will be covered on the GED for the advanced math, high school math. So we're primarily going to be focusing on the Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry standards. Since there are more than 200 standards, I can't possibly do all that in a 45-minute lecture. However, I can give you the basic skills that you need, hopefully, and then we're going to give you some resources so that if you need extra information from time to time, you will be able to look those up and get more detail. So we're going to start with the basic algebra questions, which are solving 1- and 2-step equations. And when we solve these equations, the key things to keep in mind, as a teacher, I'm going to be more interested in how you teach it than I am can you do it. I'm pretty sure all of you are capable of doing these skills. So the first thing we want to look at is you undo the operations. Okay, so we're going to undo operations. Now, be very careful about the word opposite, because the kids use the word opposite for, oh, I don't know, everything. You have plus sign and minus sign, those are opposites. You add, you subtract, those are opposites. A number and its reciprocal are opposites. Negative reciprocals are also opposites. So please, please, please avoid the use of the word opposite, because it's very confusing, because the students that you're going to be working with already have enough trouble with math. If you start doing those kinds of things, using the word opposite, it'll be very confusing for the people that you're working with. So we're going to undo the operations, and we undo them in reverse Pemdas. Now, most of you know Pemdas as please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And so when we say we want to do that in reverse Pemdas, we mean that you are going to undo from this side. You undo addition, subtraction. Then you undo multiplication, division. And then you undo your exponents and you undo your parentheses. So as a basic starting point, when we do this, let's say we have the equation 3x plus 5 equals 9. So pedagogically, one of the things that I like to tell my people is that the first thing you look is identify what has been done to x. Well, we have 3 times x. So if x was a number, the first thing I would do is I'd say 3 times x. Then the next thing that's done is you added 5. So that when we go to solve this problem, we're going to undo those in the opposite order. So to do that, we are going to undo the added 5. Undoing added 5, the undo operation is subtract 5. We always keep our equal sign on a nice straight line as we move down. And we have 3x plus 5 and minus 5 is 0. Now, some of your students will need to write that 0, and some of them won't. You have to kind of read what you've got going on with your kids. And in this case, I say kids, but they're adults. They're kids in math. And so then when we get this, 3x plus 0, of course, is 3x. So we have undone that operation. The second piece we need to do is we need to undo 3 times. The operation being multiplication. The undo for multiplication, of course, is division. So we are going to undo that by doing division. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 4 divided by 3 is 4/3. If you prefer, it is a decimal. Now, on the GED test, one of the things you have to keep in mind is there are going to be these gridded answers, and make sure you pay attention to the way they want those gridded in, because sometimes they want you gridded as 4, and then they're going to have the division sign, and then they're going to have a 3, and sometimes they will want you to grid it in as 1 decimal sign, and of course the repeating 3 would just be 3s until you get to the end of the grid. It's kind of an unusual format on the GED for the way they enter numbers, so just be aware of that. Okay, so that's your first solving equations. The other kinds of equations, of course, what if we have multi-step? What if we have something like this? 5x minus 9 equals 2x plus 17. Then we have to say to ourselves, okay, what's different about this one than the last one? Well, the key thing here is we're still going to undo them, but we've got one more step. So the one more step here is we need to isolate the variable. Now, what do we mean by isolating the variable? That means the variable needs to be on one side of the equation. And in this case, it doesn't matter which side you pick. Most of your students will feel more comfortable with it being on the left. Not sure why that's the case. I think it's because most of us have always taught them get x on the left and get the numbers on the right. So when we start this, we've got 5x minus 9 equals 2x plus 17. So I look at the 2x and I say, well, it's a positive. So to move it, I need to make it 0 on this side. One of the ways you can express this is make the zeros on one side and move the numbers to the other side. So in this case, we get 5x take away 2x is 3x. And we get 0 plus 17 is 17. Once again, because of the group you're working with, and I've worked with the GED students before, a lot of times they need to write the zeros and write the ones. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? So then, once again, we undo the operations. We have times 3 and minus 9. So to undo that, our undo is add 9. And since you guys are tutors, I'm not going to spend loads of time doing this, but I think you need to hear how I would teach this as much as anything. So then we undo the multiply by the divide. Once again, a lot of your students will need to see that 3 divided by 3. Another bane of the math teacher's existence is saying the words cancel. Everything cancels. 5 minus 5 cancels. 3 divided by 3 cancels. The square root and the square operation cancel. Another terrible word. Avoid it on pain of death. So we're doing 1 and 2 step equations. I think most of you have been doing this since you're small children. Not a problem, and you can handle it. Now, what's another big area on the GED? Well, one of the biggest areas in algebra altogether is the ability to work with lines, linear equations. So what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the time that we have together is that I'm going to be looking at the different families of functions. Okay, so our families of functions, we've got linear expressions, we've got